Making schools safer, one of the governor's main priorities for the new year.
But I don't want to make this a partisan issue. I want to be proactive.
What the Tucson Metro Chamber says about the recent minimum wage increase.
To the benefit of those employees, what you need to do is train them up.
And new leadership serving one of the state's largest school districts.
I would hope that moving forward, we fix a lot of this dysfunction.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you for joining us. In his State of the State address this week, Governor Doug Ducey called on Democrats and Republicans to work together on a number of initiatives. His agenda calls for improvements to school safety, but first he wants lawmakers to approve a drought contingency plan ahead of a January 31st deadline when the federal government says it will step in. While in Tucson this week, the governor sat down with us to discuss some of his proposals.
We've been excellent at water in Arizona. We're in the fourth fastest growing state in the nation. We're going to punch through 7 million in population in the state of Arizona. We're in the middle of a desert, and we're in a good position because giants have come before us. People like Bruce Babbitt and John Kyle, who were at my State of the State yesterday and with me this morning at a press conference, so that we can plan the next step for Arizona's water future. So growth is a good thing in our state. It's what's allowed our economy to grow. It's certainly a gift. Anybody who's been a business person knows that. We will be able to continue to grow with the proper planning and legislation. That's why I'm calling on the legislature. They've only got about 2 weeks to do it, to ratify the drought contingency plan, and we'll be in a terrific position going forward, and then we'll be able to focus on the next generational project.
Healthy choice and competition bring about innovation, and that's been the case in Arizona public education. But we also know improvements can be made.
The discussion then turned to public education reform. There's a surplus, there's a rainy day fund. Any money in there that would go toward charter school oversight, as you probably know, there was a report that came out that was somewhat unfavorable of charter schools in their deficit. Any plans there?
Well, I think we need resources. We need, of course, reforms, and we need more responsibility inside K-12. And it's not just on the schools of choice, it's across the board. We have issues around transparency and financial oversight. There were some issues that popped up in this last year, and we're going to put a focus on those. So we think these schools of choice are good for innovation, and that helps public education. But my goal is I want every child in the state of Arizona to have access to an excellent education. And when we see places where we can improve, we're going to act on that.
Use your what-if game. Okay.
The governor's budget also calls for improved school safety, including $9.3 million in funding for more school resource officers. It's going to be a hard sell for some people. How do you tell them this is the right plan?
Well, I think this is a balanced approach. I think the reason it's a hard sell is because it is so reasoned. It does really address both sides. This isn't a partisan issue. You know, something like a police officer on campus is important, and so are mental health counselors. We're going to have dollars for both. But I don't want to make this a partisan issue. I want to be proactive. This happened last year when the Parkland, Florida incident happened, and I was back in Washington and heard Governor Rick Scott of Florida talk about everything that the state of Florida was doing in reaction to that mass school shooting. And I came home and said, why don't we be proactive on this? Why don't we study what happened in Parkland and Columbine and Sandy Hook and see if there are things in public policy that could have prevented these tragedies from happening? That's the Arizona Safe School Plan, and I'm going to call on our legislators to pass this.
As you know, the officer at Parkland did not react the way that many believe that he should have. Is there a possibility of having school staff who are armed, or if they're willing to be also as an advocate for the students, if that were to happen?
The first thing I want to say is I have a lot of confidence in our men and women in blue in Arizona. What happened in Parkland with the sheriff's office was a matter of training. So I know the quality of training that happens here in the state of Arizona. I do trust a police officer on a campus to do the right thing and protect kids. When it comes to teachers in terms of being armed, I want to see our teachers teaching. Teachers go into education because they love kids and they want to make a difference. Now, sometimes there are former police officers, there are former people that have been in the military or who have been trained in firearms. If they want to be a part of this solution, I'm open-minded to that. But I'd rather that we bring a law enforcement focus where we need law enforcement and let our teachers teach and work directly with the kids.
These are programs we plan to build, expand, and align with the jobs of tomorrow.
The governor's budget also provides $20 million for Pima Community College to expand its aviation technology program. Back in 2015, the state cut its funding to PCC, amounting to a loss of several million dollars annually. But the college's recent efforts to bolster its technical training programs have caught the governor's attention.
And what Lee Lambert is doing at Pima Community College with aviation has really opened our eyes at the state capitol. And it's not just aviation, it's advanced manufacturing, it's pharmaceutical, it's the skilled trades.
You must be proud to do this, given that maybe a year or two ago, this wasn't quite the same tune that we had for community colleges.
Well, when you find leadership inside a community college, when you're getting these results, when people are coming out of these programs and going into the workforce, and today we have more jobs available in the state of Arizona than we have people to fill them. These career and technical education, these are the shop classes of the 21st century. Lee Lambert at Pima Community is doing it as good as anybody in the country, and that's something we want to invest in.
We'll return to our discussion with the governor a little later in our show, but first, it remains to be seen how Arizona lawmakers will work across the aisle this year. The importance of bipartisanship is underscored by the gains Democrats made this past election. For insight into how it could affect this legislative session, Christopher Conover spoke to Democrat Steve Farley and Republican Chris Ackerley, two former state lawmakers who represented Southern Arizona.
Those of us sitting on the outside, we see the political fights. What's the reality on the inside? Is everybody very friendly to each other, or is it what we see on the outside?
Well, the legislature is a human institution, so it's just like you see anywhere else when you get a bunch of humans together with the stakes a little bit higher at times. I always pride myself in being able to reach across the aisle and have good relationships with people even who have just killed my bill, because you kind of have to have that attitude, especially as a Democrat, because you don't have the power up there.
Senator Farley is absolutely right. I mean, the way to affect change is to build the relationships with your representatives and your senators. And he's right. I mean, Senator Farley killed one of my bills. You know, we're still here. I'm not trying to strangle him. So, you know, it is a relationship business. And so people, and you get along, and, you know, it's working relationships. They get strained. It's politics, just like politics in any work environment.
This year, a lot of attention on the House, 31-29. Democrats are 1 seat short of a tie, 2 seats short of a majority. You were in the House most recently. Chris, Steve, you were in both chambers. Can this work?
That's a good question. That is a really good question, and there are some really interesting possibilities, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how the dynamic develops. There is always the possibility that Speaker Bowers will be able to herd cats and keep every 31 Republican on board on every bill, and you know, it'd be a Republican-only legislature, but I don't think that's going to happen. So the question I think is most relevant is bipartisan going to mean that the Republican majority in the governor's office works with a few Democrats to get some agenda items through, or will they be negotiating with the Democratic leadership and the entire caucus? And I don't think that's a question that's been answered yet.
And I think it's going to be, it's going to work very well for all everyday Arizonans, and especially for the people of Tucson, because you're not going to see these harsh ideological bills go through. In the House, only one flipped Republican will kill a bill. And there are enough moderates, maybe 4 or 5 moderate Republicans in the House Republican caucus, who will refuse to go along with some of the more controversial bills we've seen, such as Mark Fincham's attempt to not allow teachers to speak politically. I don't think that's going to get anywhere because there will be enough Republicans to kill it. But you've also got on the other side, on the far right in the House Republicans, something called the Liberty Caucus, which is going to be very far to the right, and they might bolt on a certain bill important to the Speaker if they give too much to the moderates. So it will be an interesting cat herding experiment.
And there's another aspect to this too. So when I served in the legislature, we had a pretty comfortable margin in the House on the Republican side, and so there wasn't really any need for Democratic votes on the vast majority of the bills. And so they're absolutely right when they say they get sort of cut out of the conversation. But part of that led to a dynamic where if there was a possibility that they could derail things, they were looking for that possibility to derail things. And they have been operating in that mode for so long. Is the Democratic caucus going to be able to curb that instinct to throw everything off the rails? Because now they're very close to being able to do that almost every time.
And I think we're going to have that work early because we've got the drought conservation plan coming through. And we're going to need to get that decided by January 31st. So this will be a huge test. Can all the caucuses work together and put something through that is vital for the future of water in Arizona?
And then going forward with that is when we start talking about the priorities of the session, education, infrastructure, whether or not or how we handle tax conformity, what we do with the surplus, whether it goes into the rainy day fund, whether it pays down some of the debt, what priorities does it fund? Can we pull back from that partisan, we're right, they're wrong, sort of mentality that has existed for so long? I hear all the time about how healthcare and education are Democratic priorities and Republicans don't care about them. But having been in those back rooms, having actually, been dealing with negotiating those budgets with the Speaker's office and the President's office and the Governor's office, there's some push and shove there, and if the dynamic out front is still they're right, we're wrong, we're going to head for some very trying times.
Let's move this conversation forward 100 or so days. It's the end of the session. We're all sitting here. What's the surprise bill that passed?
Oh, I know one that's going to happen, and
Okay.
a lot of people are surprised. I was the first legislator in the country to introduce a bill to ban driving while texting in 2007. We still don't have it, but this year there's a huge bipartisan push, including positive signs from the governor's office, that we will have a full hands-free law in the state of Arizona at the end of this session.
I think one of the things that's probably coming up, and I don't know that it's much getting talking about, but if we see something start to happen, the gaming compacts are up relatively shortly. And if we see some early movement on that, that might be a surprise. And they might not wait until the very, very last minute to beat people over the heads with that.
But again, it may depend on how everything goes with the drought contingency plan. Thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We should mention that Steve Farley is currently running for mayor of Tucson, as is Chris Ackerley's uncle, Ed Ackerley. Leaders at the top are focused on growing Arizona's economy, and here in southern Arizona, it's a shared goal of the Tucson Metro Chamber. The chamber follows a number of issues affecting businesses in the region. We asked Chamber President Amber Smith about factors impacting growth in Pima County, beginning with the state's minimum wage hike to $11 an hour at the start of 2019. What are you seeing in the Tucson Metro Chamber when it comes to how businesses are reacting to the new increase?
It's difficult. It's difficult to sustain. It's difficult for businesses to be able to absorb those higher costs, because it's not necessarily the having to pay the minimum wage worker, but it's what that does to the rest of your employees, because now you still have to be able to create that differentiation from positions and wages reflecting the work performed. So it's not just pushing up those minimum wage workers, it's pushing up your entire payroll costs, which again, it's very difficult to absorb because people's overhead and companies' overhead is not that large. Those returns on margins are not huge, and so it's going to be very negative on businesses that rely on those type of workers.
Are there pros and cons to minimum wage, or do you really see it only in one swoop?
I think that the idea of having all employees making a livable wage is commendable, and I think that we would all agree that we want that for everyone. But I don't think that the way to achieve that is through setting the wage. Really, businesses have to be able to operate supply and demand and be able to be in control of their own overhead costs. But to the benefit of those employees, what you need to do is train them up. We need to get them more training, more education, partnering with all of our different job trainers, Pima Community College, JTED, and these other ways to be able to grow the talent as opposed to mandating what that talent should make.
Amber, you are new to the Tucson Metro Chamber. One of your passions, among many, infrastructure, increasing what we see throughout the city, also the region. Transportation still kind of one of the top priorities?
Absolutely. We've been hearing transportation for a decade, and we know that funding from the state has decreased. We know that the state gas tax was never adjusted for inflation. We also know that there's less people paying that tax because of more fuel-efficient vehicles. And it's not just current citizens that are remarking on it, it's companies that are exploring our community to move here. It's tourists identifying it on the most recent Visit Tucson survey. It is at the forefront of everyone's mind, and it is a first impression issue.
So what's the solution?
We did have the most recent bond package to try to address that failed. But we also have a fantastic reputation and implementation of working on a roadways with the Regional Transportation Authority, which has representatives from every single one of our jurisdictions on it. There's a very specific list of needs that the voters approved, and there's a very specific funding mechanism to be able to fund those projects. It's worked fantastic. There's been a huge amount of transparency. So I think that we need to be able to grow those opportunities and perhaps start looking at doing a full cent sales tax under the RTA that would be equitable for our entire community.
Governor Doug Ducey during the campaign said a lot about the economy of Arizona improving. As we know, there are naysayers who do not agree with him. What is your take on the health of Pima County's economy?
It's definitely improving. I mean, I can see that internally through the chamber because we can sit there and watch the fluctuation and what happens to our revenue and membership. And we are certainly on an upward incline. The recession hit us harder, so therefore it's going to take longer for us to recover from it. But we are recovering, absolutely. We are on an upward trajectory. Sun Corridor Inc., our partners at Pima County, as well as Science and Tech Park. There's so many different players, and the Arizona Commerce Authority and Governor Ducey, everyone is pulling together and trying to recruit these employers to come here because our doors are open and we have so many assets that companies are looking for.
The City of Tucson leadership is up for grabs this year. What would the Tucson Metro Chamber like to see?
We want someone that recognizes that growing commerce and growing business is the means to be able to support the community. Because the more businesses that come in and the higher we can raise our wages and the more positions that we can fill, is in providing resources back into those general funds. And so that leader has to understand that message and be able to lead and promote selling our community, welcoming businesses, and making sure that we have the right environment for business to grow and thrive and open.
Okay, Amber, thank you.
We vote that will be on the agenda.
The Tucson Unified School District's newest member took her seat on the board this month. Leila Counts is an educator and a TUSD parent. She received the most votes for one of two open seats last November. In our studio, we asked how she plans to help the district overcome some of its biggest challenges. So tell me, you campaign on things like bringing back art and music and class sizes, reducing class sizes. There have been some people who have been part of the TUSD school board who have said, we want to do those things too, but it's not as easy as it always sounds. How are you determined to be that person who says, you know what, we can do this?
I think we really have to look towards the larger community and partnerships. With our budgetary crisis in Arizona and definitely with TUSD, we can't do it alone. We need to forge stronger relationships with our community colleges, the university, other nonprofits, so that we can do some really creative strategies and solutions to fix a lot of our problems and do a lot of the cost sharing. I think that it's not only a creative way to serve our students, but it's really necessary in this day and age and where we are with our budget in regards to education in Arizona. We have to work together.
Also necessary, creating a safe space for students to learn in, something that's comfortable, but there are still teachers, qualified teachers, certified, who are missing from the front of the classroom.
Right.
So how do you go about managing that?
Salaries matter and class sizes matter, and I know this as a firsthand experience in being an educator. Teacher stress matters. Receiving affordable certification that we can really, and this is part of that creative solution finding I was talking about, really grow our own teachers, hopefully at starting in high school and at a really reduced rate, so that we have teachers that are already invested in our community, invested in TUSD, and can graduate as certificated teachers at a huge cost reduction.
School board members are actually responsible for helping distribute some of that pay into the classrooms, into the teacher pocketbooks.
Right.
How will you go about ensuring that teachers are getting those gradual increases that have been promised over the years?
Right. I think our fairly new superintendent, Dr. Trujillo, has done a really good job at reducing administrative costs the best way that we can, considering we're still under a 40-year desegregation order that hopefully will be coming to an end soon. And so we need to really get more money in the classrooms and all services that wrap around the students and support the educators. So counselors, social workers, librarians, art teachers. And it's going to come down to being really wise with our budgetary decisions and understanding that right now we're in a hiring freeze for administration, but we're still open for our teachers.
I, Leila Counts.
I, Leila Counts.
You were recently sworn in. The first board meeting seemed to start off pretty strong, and it became contentious quickly, which can happen. There's a history there. In some circles, you might be considered the swing vote. Do you see yourself that way?
I would hope that moving forward, we fix a lot of this dysfunction, work collaboratively for our students, and that there really isn't a perception of a allegiance or board majority, that we really learn to work together and come from a place of independent thought and thinking, what is the best decision I can make for our students? So probably at this point in time, I might be considered the swing vote, but I'm hoping to work on the functionality of the board so that we can all work independently and collaboratively for our students.
How important is it for former educators or current educators to actually be in these leadership roles? For example, our superintendent of public instruction and yourself serving on the TUSD school board.
I think it is important to have experience in education, at least to have some understanding of the educational system. I think actually what is more important is being a parent. I feel that I was a teacher before I was a parent, and really having that skin in the game, your literal blood and bones in the game, changes things. And if you haven't been a lifelong advocate, I think parenthood really changes people and makes them understand the importance of education and all children succeeding. So although I do think it is important to have experience in education, definitely understand the system, I would really support other parents to look into running for school board for future elections.
Okay, Leila Counts, one of the newest members for the Tucson Unified School Board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Now back to our conversation with Governor Ducey. Our discussion turned to issues of national focus, namely border security and the government shutdown, which entered its 25th day when we spoke. I know that you're very proud of the relationship that you formed with the state of Sonora, but there is a bit of a situation occurring. There are hundreds of people released by Immigration and Customs Enforcement every weekend. In November alone, 700 people in one case. Are there any plans for state aid to support those agencies that release these people into Arizona?
First, I want to say my heart goes out to these people, and that this is a humanitarian crisis that's happening at our border. It's something we talk about quite a bit in the state of Arizona. It's something we've tried to address with the Border Strike Force in terms of focusing on who are the bad actors, the criminals. That's the drug cartels and human smuggling and child sex trafficking. But then there are those that are fleeing a country, usually in Central or South America, in situations that are just unimaginable. So our federal government does not have the resources at the ports or along the border to work with people that are in need of asylum. I know that our state agencies, along with some federal partners and our faith-based organizations, have done a lot to try to help these people. There's been a real surge over the last several months. We're working with our partners in Washington, D.C., people on the border, and folks that lead in these agencies to do our best, but it has been overwhelming.
Have you had conversations with Governor Pavlovich about how to respond to the people who are waiting in her state, waiting to access this one?
We've had discussions with Governor Pavlovich on how we can work with the Mexican federal government. Although our governments are certainly constructed and constituted differently, state power over a border is dramatically different than what the federal government's power is over the border. So I believe we do have a strong advocate and partner there in Governor Pavlovich to try to solve this situation and come at it from a humanitarian standpoint when that's the issue, and when it's a law enforcement standpoint, that same type of communication.
Okay, let's talk shutdown. Anything that you can do as governor of Arizona to support the 10,000 government employees who are not receiving a paycheck currently?
We can advocate. I really feel for these people. These are people that have a job. They have a real purpose and service to our country in what they do. And right now, oftentimes they're not being paid, they're being furloughed, and if they're living paycheck to paycheck, I can only imagine the anxiety, especially following the holidays. So I really call on our federal government, our Congress to solve this. It seems to me like a pretty solvable problem. I was bragging in my State of the State on what we've been able to do here in Arizona in terms of a balanced budget. I want to have $1 billion balance in our rainy day fund, and we're paying down debt in our state while we're giving raises to teachers. Our federal government is broke and broken and broken down, and it's been that way for decades. We've anticipated government shutdowns in Arizona from our federal government. We were able to keep the Grand Canyon open. That's because we've seen these guys do this in the past, and we thought if they do it again, we want to be ready. We didn't anticipate Arizonans not getting a paycheck. So what we can do at this moment in time, I think we're coming up on a record amount of time for the government shutdown, is to apply as much positive pressure to solve this situation, come to a deal, and start paying these hardworking people.
Okay, Governor Ducey, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. Send us your feedback, visit us on social media, and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.